Imagine not being able to read the paper because your hands were shaking. Imagine not being able to read newsprint as your world faded to black. The National Federation of the Blind, Newsline, Indiana. With your host, Lee Martin, and co-host, Florence Myers-McSwine.
Good afternoon and welcome to this week's National Federation of the Blind Newsline Indiana show. I am your co-host, Florence Myers-McSwine, and I'm sitting here with your host, Mr. Lee Martin. And Lee, how are you this afternoon?
Well, once again, I just cannot wait to get into this show. But first of all, once again, we need to talk about our business. The National Federation of the Blind has a service for each and every one of you that meet the qualifications for the service. It's called the National Federation of the Blind Newsline, and it is a free service, and it is a service that allows individuals that are print challenged, those that are blind, visually impaired, those that have physical challenges turning newspapers, those that have certain forms of dyslexia, and even the deaf-blind can access newspapers, publications, for the first time. I mean, it's so exciting where you can just read the publication of your choice. If I want to read the newspapers in China, if I want to read newspapers in Jerusalem, Russia, if I want to come back over here to the United States and read the Wall Street journals, if I want to read the Christian Science, I can read all of those. And wow, Florence, take it off and tell about a little bit more of that, would you?
I certainly will, Lee. What I like about Newsline is it's accessible to me every time I need it. I mean, it's there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and it is a free service. It's a free audio information service, and I love having access to NFB Newsline. It's opened up a lot of information to me that I otherwise would not have. So I really enjoy it.
So what are some of your publications you like to read?
Oh, goodness, I like to read CNN. I love Consumer Reports magazine. WebMD is one of my favorites. Guidepost magazine is an inspirational magazine that I have been enjoying for years. When I had my vision, I read it, and as my vision deteriorated, I thought I would not be able to read that magazine, but again, with NFB Newsline, I have access to that magazine, so there's a lot of information.
Please don't forget, as you also aged, you read the AARP magazine, right?
Yes, sir, I do read AARP magazine.
So there's so much in there to read, and for those in the Indianapolis area, we can read the Indianapolis Recorder, we can read the Indianapolis Star, the Indianapolis Monthly, and also the Indianapolis Business Journal. And we have 17 newspapers and publications throughout the state of Indiana, so we're working on more and more and more. So we will be right back with our guest, Miss Representative Robin Shackleford. So we'll be right back with her. Stay tuned. She has a lot to share.
Now, thanks to NFB Newsline, I feel that my eyes have been opened to a whole new world of information. I can again keep up with sports right along with my husband and sons. They're impressed that I have this service, and personally, I am too.
I was happy to see that I can again read Guidepost and Reader's Digest. It's funny when you think about how the simple things in life, like reading your favorite magazines, can make a heart smile. I want to thank the NFB Newsline team for what they do.
We are the nation's blind, and we read NFB Newsline.
As I travel the nation, I read NFB Newsline.
I live in Valparaiso, Indiana, and I listen to my local news on NFB Newsline.
As a student, I enjoy reading current events on NFB Newsline.
Learn more by calling 855-963-6476 or visit nfbnewsline-in.org.
Subscribe free to NFB Newsline today. We want to welcome you back to the National Federation of the Blind Newsline show. And today, once again, we have the privilege of having Representative Robin Shackleford. Robin, welcome back to the show.
Thank you. Glad to be back.
And I'll tell you, you shared so much information, and we got more information to share. So let's get about the business of sharing that information. Okay. Once again, you are the Indiana Black Caucus chairperson. And you're also the Power Caucus vice president.
Yes.
Okay, so just again as to review from last week's show, what is the Indiana Black Caucus, Legislative Caucus?
So the Indiana Black Legislative Caucus is a caucus that's made up of all the African American legislators in the state. So we have 13. That's in the House and the Senate. And we get together as a caucus and work on those issues that we feel affect the minority community and try to push those agendas together as a caucus.
Okay, and then there's the Power Caucus, and you're the vice president of that. You want to explain that one?
So the Power Caucus is the Women's Caucus. That group is made up of all the women in the legislature, in the House and the Senate. Democrat and Republican, is bipartisan. In that caucus, one of the primary things that we do is raise money every year during the budget cycle, and then we use that money for a scholarship fund to give out to women who are non-traditional students to help them further in their education.
Okay, now how many women would that be?
There's about 30.
30?
So out of 150, we have about 30 women in the legislature. So there's a great need for more women to get involved.
Yeah, I would say that it is.
Yes.
So, so you was elected to the caucus in 2012. You're a graduate of Indiana University and IUPUI, and you have your master's in, what's your master's in?
It was in policy analysis.
Public policy, okay.
Yes.
And with that, you served in numerous positions. I know you served with Mayor Bart Peterson. You want to share some of the avenues in which you've, I guess, worked in, or capacities that you worked in?
Yeah, so when I got out of college, I think we left off last week how I changed my major to public affairs. So when I got out, I said I need some experience in government because my family wasn't in government. I didn't know anybody in government. So I started out working in the clerk's office down in the Supreme Court, the Supreme Appellate Court. And I only stayed there a year because I was really focused on trying to get to the legislature. So I was able to get to the legislature that next year by becoming a legislative assistant. And with that, I was able to then really work with Representative Crawford, Charlie Brown, and the Black Caucus as a legislative assistant. And as a legislative assistant, a former legislative assistant, I knew how the process worked. I could see behind the scenes. So once I became a legislator, it wasn't totally new to me. Like some of our legislators who get elected may have never even been at the State House. But having that inside knowledge, that really helped. And from there, I worked in the Department of Commerce over a program called the Individual Development Account Program that's still in existence today. It's an awesome program that we try to keep the funding in there. And what it is a savings program where the state matches your savings 3-to-1. And with that money, you can purchase a home, you can start a business, you can go back to college. Now you can also do repairs on your home. So it's a phenomenal program that I did for about 4 years working in the Department of Commerce. Then after that, I was able to get into lobbying, and I was lobbying for the Indiana Healthcare Association. It was a great association because that association deals with long-term care with seniors You have the owners there that own the different long-term care facilities. And they usually have sometimes like not the greatest reputation for nursing homes, but I say there's always some good and bad ones. And then there's a timing for everything. So seniors, if they can live on their own as long as possible, that's phenomenal. But then sometimes it comes a point where their illness is so great that they have to go into a nursing home and they don't have anyone to take care of them at home. So that's the point when sometimes our seniors do have to go there. Not only our seniors, but we're seeing more and more young people go into nursing home for different disabilities that they may have, and they don't have anyone to take care of them at home at that skill level. So that was a great opportunity. And then going into Mayor Peterson's office, I was his Director of Diversity Affairs. And I say that was a great position because I kind of got to relearn my city and relearn all the different cultures that we have here, especially on the west side of town, all the different languages that spoke. Went to numerous events and just trying to bridge people's concerns with the mayor and let him come in and talk to them and see what their concerns was. So it was a phenomenal position. I love that position.
Oh, speaking of phenomenal, it sounds like you're a phenomenal woman and doing phenomenal things, Representative.
Oh, thank you.
I wanted to ask you, now I'm just going to go this way for just a second because I know that you're representative of a district.
98.
98.
98, okay. And what would you consider to be the greatest need in your district?
So I would say economic development. My district, there's probably about 1.5 grocery stores. I say 1.5 because there's one and then there's a co-op grocery store. There's a lot of gas stations, a lot of quick places to eat, but we are lacking so many things. We don't have like a main park in there where you can have like a destination park. Not only for healthy foods, there's not a lot of places to get healthy foods. A lot of our banks are leaving. I say we have like the district that has most of the deserts. So whether if it's a food desert, a bank desert, a pharmacy desert. So you have all these businesses that are leaving. We do have a lot of manufacturing and a lot of mom and pop businesses, but even that we still need more. Like we don't have a lot of sit down restaurants where we can get healthy food at and just have a lot of family time. We need more jobs brought into the community where people are actually making a living wage. And so that may not go the route that they shouldn't go if they were actually trained and then had the ability to get these jobs. So I would say the economic development piece is one of the largest challenges in my district.
And what can the community do to possibly enhance the lives of the constituents in your area?
So my whole thing is advocate. So we're down there advocating at the State House on behalf of constituents, but in order to put that personal touch on it and really get to the heart of the legislators, they need to hear from our constituents directly. And particularly in the minority community, I know sometimes they don't want to take off work to come down and testify in front of the committees, but you can advocate in different ways. You can send an email, which is very quick. You can give a call. So I'll give one quick example of how advocacy really works. So I'm the ranking member in health, and I work with the chair a lot in that position, and there was one bill that she wasn't going to hear. It was actually Representative Porter's bill on food on bed bugs. So apparently the bill indirectly affected these cats. And over the weekend, her and I received almost 500 emails because people were so concerned about these cats. Now, her and I both have our emails connected to our cell phone. So when we start getting those emails in, our cell phone is just buzzing, buzzing, buzzing. It's binging, keeps binging. So she called me up and she was like, Robin, what is going on? Why are we getting so many emails about this bill? But it changed her mind because she was like, okay, let me hear it so I can hear the concerns. When you have 500 people just sending you these emails and we're getting it on our phone all throughout the weekend, it really digs to the heart of the chair, and then they'll decide to hear that bill. So I say if we had 500 emails just on food deserts alone, getting people really to advocate and dig in, working on looking at economic development in urban communities, we need that extra power. And once the people know their power, then they'll begin to see some of those different outcomes.
Well, you know, advocacy is the key.
Yes.
And we're going to take a short pause, and we're going to come back with Representative Robin Shackleford. Stay tuned.
Thousands of Indiana residents feel isolated from the world due to vision problems. Thanks to the National Federation of the Blind, visually impaired Hoosiers can hear newspapers, circulars, and magazines from across the globe.
I'm a Vietnam veteran. I'm blind. I read Stars and Stripes on NFB Newsline.
Learn more by calling 855-963-6476 or visit nfbnewsline-in.org.
Subscribe free to NFB Newsline.
I'm Danny Wayne Beamer, Program Manager of the Elder Blind Program at the Will Center in Terre Haute, Indiana. I introduce the NFB Newsline to seniors in 13 southwestern counties in Indiana. I also utilize the NFB Newsline for my radio station public affairs shows. The NFB Newsline. Experience it today.
Learn more by calling 855-963-6476 or visit nfbnewsline-in.org.
We are the nation's blind, and we read NFB Newsline.
Welcome back to the segment of our National Federation of the Blind Newsline show, and we'll continue with our conversation with Representative Shackleford.
Yes, Ms. Shackleford. One of the questions that we were discussing and is dealing with health care. And so what is one of the important health care legislation pieces that, that passed this session?
Okay, so one of the important ones is a prescription drug cost study, where we know a lot of our constituents are affected by high drug costs, especially if you're diabetic, and the cost of insulin. So I have been trying for a couple of years for us to at least just study where are these high prices coming from. So it got passed this session. We'll actually be studying it on October the 2nd. And what we'll be looking at is not only looking at the drug manufacturers, but also the pharmacists and the pharmacy benefit managers. So taking a holistic approach, having everyone come in and testify, including some of the patients that testified throughout the session, and just teach us, like, where are these high prices coming from? How are individuals being affected by these high prices? And that will help us develop legislation for next session.
Wow, so you have a summer study?
Yes.
Okay, so what is a summer study and how long do they last?
So the summer study committees, first of all, if you want a topic to be studied, it has to be approved by the 4 leaders in the House and the Senate. And you submit the study. So even if it does go through session, then those leaders still have to agree to study it. Summer study sessions go from July to October. We have numerous issues that we're studying in all these different committees, whether it's judicial, and we're studying the effects of young juveniles being waived into the court adult system. So we'll be studying that because that was a bill last session that was very controversial, wanting 12-year-olds to be put into an adult court. And that came about because of what happened in Noblesville. And you had these people advocating, wanting to see these young adults be prosecuted more at that and be retained in an adult court. So summer study committees, stuff that we may not get done, stuff that was maybe controversial during the session, then we'll study them. And I don't want people to get caught up and think we're actually doing like a traditional study. But what we do is have people come in and testify. We will have our legislative services do some research. So it's mainly just educating those members, so then we'll know how to proceed with legislation.
Okay, so here it is in August. Is it too late to bring a study to forth?
Yes, because the topics have already been approved. So we have a list of topics that are approved, then they're assigned to committees, and then we have from July to October to study those topics. But yeah, they're approved close to the end of session. Right after the end of session is when we submit letters and submit information to those 4 leaders requesting topics to be approved.
Okay. Okay, so do you know what topics are a few of the topics that are being studied this summer again?
Yes, so like in healthcare, we're going to look at the cost of healthcare, spread it out between 3 different committees. I'm on financial institutions and insurance, so we'll be looking at what is driving up healthcare. And we actually had requested that 5 meetings take place on looking at prescription drug costs, looking at healthcare costs, and then looking at Medicaid drivers, what is driving up the cost of Medicaid. We'll be looking at some certification programs, like for the advanced nurse practitioners. That was a very controversial bill, when advanced nurse practitioners can get to go out and be on their own versus still being under a doctor. So we'll be studying that and seeing exactly what their training should be before they get to do this. Like I said, the juvenile bill that they'll be studying judiciary. Fiscal always have a ton of things. They'll be looking at the Medicaid drivers that's going to take place this summer. So those are just a couple. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, I know that one of the bills that we would like to probably have, I wish hopefully that we have, was given to some of our representatives to introduce, and that's the parenting rights bill for people that are blind and people with disabilities.
Okay.
Probably be giving you a call or giving Representative Porter a call or Peter a call to see if they got that piece of, got that for a study in. Because it's very important to us, because parents that are blind or parents with disabilities often have their children taken away from them. They're scrutinized. And we've had cases like that through the state of Indiana. And we don't feel like because you're blind or you have a disability that you should be confronted with having your child taken away from you because or preconceived notions that you can't.
Yes, and as I mentioned during our break, my mom knew a couple that was married and had their kids, and we used to go play with their kids. So I think it definitely, I have seen blind couples still raise their kids and raise them effectively. So if we haven't got that legislation in to be studied for this session, then we can always do it for next session and make sure that we get that in.
Okay, and so that needs to be in July of next session, or when does that need to be in?
So we go into session in January, and during the summer is when we start gathering our bills for what we want to present for January, and all that is actually due in December. So yeah, make sure you get the information to your legislator now, and this is actually when we start working on our legislation and drafting it for next year. And then we have a deadline that we have to have it by December.
Okay.
Now, are these studies open to the public?
Yes, so every committee that we have at the state level is open to the public. The public can come down and view it in person, or they can view it on our website. Everything is streamed live. So like I was talking about advocacy, you don't have to take off work. You can see us conducting committees. The hearings are all, our session is all live on the internet. So if you can't come down to the State House, you can always look at it online.
Okay. And any comments and concerns, who would the constituents address those to?
So if constituents have comments and concerns, which we work on a lot of constituent work throughout the summer and also during session, they can contact your office, contact our offices for their legislator, and we'll still be working on any concerns that they're having, especially with state agencies. That's a big one where a lot of people are working with these state agencies, whether if it's FSSA or the Department of Health. I get a lot where it's FSSA, and so people, if their benefits have been cut or they're having issues trying to get re-registered, like for different benefits, then yeah, I'm a regular with FSSA for my constituents, because that's a lot of their concerns.
Okay, now, if you were legislator for the day, what new law would you like to see passed?
So I usually pose that question when I'm out talking to people about advocacy, whether if it's kids that I'm talking to or adults, because I think it helps generate ideas. So throughout the summer, I go out to different neighborhood associations, I go out to meetings and ask them what piece of legislation they would like. And then I keep a list in my phone because all legislation is started with an idea, and then we'll put it into legalized form. And then that's how I pick my top things that I'm going to work on. So during the short session that's coming up, in the House, we only get to author 5 bills. And during the long session, the one we just had, because it's a budget year, we get to author 10 bills. So as we go into this short session, we only get to author 5 bills. So it becomes like a top 5 list after I'm keeping my long list, and then which top 5 am I going to author?
Okay. Well, we're going to take a short break, and we're going to come back with the conclusion of our show with Representative Shackleford. So stay tuned.
The National Federation of the Blind knows that blindness is not the characteristic that defines you or your future. Every day we raise the expectations of blind people because low expectations create obstacles between blind people and our dreams. You can live the life you want. Blindness is not what holds you back.
With my failing eyesight, I'm not able to read regular newspapers, and I'm not able to keep up with obituaries.
I've been a homemaker all of my life, but since my vision has failed, I wish I could read my favorite magazines.
Have you heard of the NFB Newsline?
Learn more by calling 855-963-6476 or visit nfbnewsline-in.org.
Subscribe free to NFB Newsline today.
I am a blind vendor, and one of the things that I truly miss is reading Vending Times magazine.
Hoosiers can hear Indiana magazines, circulars, national magazines, and information from across the globe. Learn more by calling 855-963-6476 or visit nfbnewsline-in.org.
It is a fantastic service.
Subscribe free to NFB Newsline today. We want to welcome you back to the conclusion of our show today with Representative Robin Shackleford. Ms. Shackleford, thank you very much for coming on to our show today.
Thank you.
And Florence, you have a question.
Yes, I have a quick question on pages. What is the minimum age for a person interested in Page?
So I believe it's 13 to 18. They get to get out of school for a day, and then they can come and Page for any legislator. It's a great opportunity for youth to be able to see what we do on a day-to-day basis.
Thank you.
Well, we're going to conclude our show, and thank you once again, Representative Shackleford. You know, you've dedicated your life to the principles of servant leadership, and we are so gracious to you. And may you continue to be blessed as you continue to bless so many others.
Well, thank you.
So join us next week on a brand new show. Take good care.
The National Federation of the Blind, Newsline, Indiana. For more information, go to nfb-in.org or call 855-963-6476. That's 855-963-6476. The National Federation of the Blind encourages you to live the life you want.